Hey, welcome for another episode of Behind the Roast. Today I'm going to focus on roasting and brewing, preparing coffee for filter preparation. So what I have here is my Giesen profiler. I have my beautiful W6, which has been preheating, and I'm going to start this roast while I will explain a few aspects of what we are going to try to accomplish today. So I'm going to just check, I have been preheating, and let me start this roast. I'm going to record the roast profile as well, and off we go. In today's trial, I'm roasting half a batch, 3 kilos in my W6, and I've been preheating my roaster for 20 minutes, and I'm starting this filter roast carefully, meaning I have my power, my flame level at 5%. Right now, my air temperature is gradually coming to a balance. It's kind of bottoming out fairly soon. And what I'm going to accomplish with this 50% roast is I'm going to try to hit my first crack at around 9 minutes, and then my development percentage I'm going to shoot at least at 15%, so that I will arrive at a total roast time of somewhere around 10.5 minutes. So in a filter roast that we're going to do today, I'm not going to want to roast super light, because the world of roasted coffee consists of more of just super light roasts. And here you can get an idea for what the roast color is that I'm aiming at. This, I just measured it at my color meter, and it is color 56, 57 on the beans. And here you can see the green beans I'm roasting. I have some wonderful Finca La Cabra from Panama that I'm roasting for this purpose. You can kind of see the shape of these beans. It's a very evenly shaped bean. Moisture measured out at 10.8%, which is good. And so right now I've been roasting for 2 minutes. I've been allowing the beans to get settled inside the roasting drum. So now I'm going to increase my flame level. Since I'm roasting only half a batch, I'm going to not increase my flame levels too high, because then my roast will be done very quickly. Right now I'm at 55%. I'm going to wait until the Maillard reactions start, which start at around 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Right now, my bean temperature is gradually climbing, 237, 238. My PA I have at 130. And here you can follow the graph on my Giesen profiler controller. So let's look at the bean color. And I hope you can see this on your screen. The coffee is picking up like a first kind of a honey smell, indicative that it's approaching the Maillard reactions. My rate of rise is 9.5. So while my Giesen is roasting, what do we try to accomplish in a good filter roast? And again, this filter roast is not a super light roast. For this La Cabra roast, I'm looking for a very sweet, throughout sweet coffee, balanced. I'm looking for a coffee that is somewhat forgiving, so that I can brew it in a Chemex, or I can brew it in a Bonavita filter brew, or I can brew it in my V60. And I'm looking for a forgiving roast. Forgiving meaning a little bit darker with a slightly more development, so that I'm hitting this requirement for sweetness all the time. Nowadays, Coffees are roasted across the board in different parts of the world where I come very light. At times, the roast masters forget that consumers, your clients, they always love their sweetness in their cup. So where are we now? We are now 4.5 minutes, 293, we're approaching 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me look at my bean color. So I can see that these beans are really picking up kind of a golden color. At this stage, the Maillard reactions, which determine sweetness, which are influential in sweetness, are really in full swing. I'm going to reduce my flame level slightly to 50%. And I'm not going to make too many radical changes yet. You can see my rate of rise is gradually tapering down. Bean temperature 314 degrees, which means I'm making some good progress here with my roast. 5.5 minutes. Shall I adjust? I'm going to wait just a little bit to see how the bean color is developing. So what is the special aspect in regards of doing filter roasting? Again, you're looking for sweetness. In filter brew, the contact time between the water, the hot water, and the coffee is much longer than with a preparation like espresso. And for that reason, you have to take into account that during this much longer contact time, you potentially have much more time to extract unique flavor notes of the coffee itself. In this La Cabra, I'm looking for cantaloupe, honey, sweetness of course, and I'm looking for a mild acidity, like you could find in a mandarin fruit orange. Let's see, where are we now? 340 degrees almost. Here is my roast color. I'm getting like a brown sugar, molasses fragrance. Now I'm going to reduce my flame level to 25%. Oh. And you can see with the new Giesen profile how easy it is to control your roast. And I can also do that, of course, on my normal console, but here using my Giesen profiler, that's very, very easy. You can see how my rate of rise is gradually tapering off for a roast that is not too light, where I'm looking for sweetness and balance. This very gradual decline of the rate of rise is good. That is what I was looking for. You can see the bean temperature in red and the air temperature are gradually coming to one another. My rate of rise is now 4 degrees. Let's see where my roast level is. And here you can see and so in this roast, since I'm aiming at a roast with slightly more development, I need to ensure that my flame level is reduced sufficiently when I'm approaching the first crack, so that I can obtain this longer development time without over roasting my coffee. And that is the real trick. I don't want to over roast. The longer development time allows me also at the same time to have a roast level which was free from these under roasted flavors. When I'm tasting in the cafes of San Francisco or of Amsterdam, these under roasted flavors, then I think, wow, you have been leaving so much opportunity of sweetness on the table. 378 degrees. We should be very close to the first crack now. And I can hear the first crack. So first crack at 380 degrees. On your Giesen, the temperature for the first crack might be slightly different. Keep in mind I use a half batch, and that influences somewhat the temperature readout points for your bean probe. And my first crack is really starting gradually. This is going quite well. I'm happy about it. Now I'm bringing my flame level to just 5%, low flame. I'm already activating my stirrer arm. And let's see, my development right now is reading 8%, 9%. I was aiming at around 15, maybe between 15 to 17%. I make that decision based upon color. So I'm not just roasting with my controller, but I'm also roasting by looking at what's going on with the beans and what I smell, this sensory information that I'm getting. Very gradual development. Now I'm turning on my cooler fan. And development ratio 15%. This is exciting. I'm very close to finishing this roast. Yes, I'm getting the right notes. End of the roast. So total roasting time in this case was just over 11 minutes, which was really good. This was what I was hoping for. I also had a development time or development ratio of around 16%, 17%. I think it was like 16.5%. And I'm very excited to taste this coffee as a filter brew. And for that purpose, I always like to wait at least a day. I might give it 2 days for this case. And so I'm happy that this went to plan. So tips for you is that when you're preparing a filter roast for your filter brewers, always cup your coffee. Cup it really well so that you understand what the flavor notes are of the coffee when you do a cupping roast color. And cupping you should do around color number, actual number 60, so slightly lighter than what we roasted now. That cupping roast color will give you the benchmark of what the coffee has to offer. And then you do your roasting profile, you do your measurements, and then you are going to put the coffee to the test in your brewers. And that's what we will be doing next. I'll give it about 2 days until we are going to do that. So I'm very curious about that outcome. I feel a little bit like I'm in a circus of coffee. So here I have different contraptions for preparing, brewing filter coffee. Filter coffee is in most countries in the Western world still responsible for the major part of the consumption. At home, that's where we love to explore the coffees that we purchase out in the different shops and the different roasteries. We did our roast 2 days ago with the Giesen W6. The objective was to create really sweet tasting coffee. And here I'm putting this coffee to the test. In front of me I have a Chemex, and I'm going to brew that a little bit more. Here is my V60, and I'm going to brew it a little bit more. I'm shooting for a brewing ratio between 1 to 15 to 1 to 19, which is kind of the SCA, Specialty Coffee Association brewing protocol. And here I have a fully automatic, really fancy machine, the Spin, and I'm going to put that to work. So which machines do I have here? Bonavita, which is a really practical, handy brewing machine for home use. This is a gravity brewer that looks very beautiful, and you can do an immersion brew in this one. This is the Carlsbad coffee maker. This is a coffee maker that was developed in the early 20th century. It's still being made by a company called Walkure in Germany, southern Germany. The filter, I don't know if you can see that, but this is a ceramic filter, a triple layered ceramic filter. Doesn't require any paper, and that's why it produces a very clean brew. The Chemex is a beautiful design and made in the US, designed by a, now my spin is making some noise because it's an automatic brewer, grinder and brewer. And then here I have my V60, which is also gradually brewing, and then my spin is making coffee. So all of these different devices, these different contraptions can be used to make your beautiful filter brew coffee at home. As I said, this is still the most common beverage, coffee beverage made. What is it all about with filter brew coffee? Is that, and now I'm getting a little bit technical, here we have a brewing control chart. This allows us to plan the brewing process. On the vertical line, we have the total dissolved solids. That's the actual coffee you dissolve in your water. And the different quadrants show how you can get to the perfect brew, or to an over brewed coffee, and over extracted coffee, or under extracted. And there's a perfect window of sweetness. That's what it's really about, because that gives the ideal extraction yield between 19 to 24%, which basically is an expression for how much flavor you were able to find in your coffee. And if you're really a geek and technical, you can use this device, which is a TDS meter, to develop the level of extraction in terms of TDS that you got in your coffee. Now, back to coffee brewing. I've been I'm almost at the end of this brew. I'm looking here at my scales that I have been using for this purpose. The Carlsbad coffee maker requires a little bit more water. My Chemex is almost done, and my V60 is also almost done. So what it really comes down to is that I can extract the sweetness of the coffee as it was produced diligently in the farm, that I can extract that sweetness in a way that it represents, you know, the philosophy of the grower and of the roaster. This spin, which is basically the result of Dutch-Swiss engineering, is a machine that uses the centrifugal forces to extract the water in the coffee. The V60, we are of course very familiar with the V60 and the Chemex as well. So these brewers, they allow enough time, enough water, coffee contact time. That's really the special thing with filter brewed coffee. My Carlsbad coffee maker that I have here, it doesn't use any paper filter, just a ceramic filter. And now I'm going to try this brew. And you can see it's a very elegant contraption. The cool thing is that I can also smell the aroma of the coffee in this way, and it's because it condensates inside the lid. And the brew is very clean. This contraption, which allows me to steep the coffee before I extract it, gives me the ability to increase my TDS, my total dissolved solids. And here, this Bonavita is a very handy machine that allows me to brew the coffee right into a thermos, and in that way I can serve it. So for those of you who are watching this program, you're probably a roaster or a retailer, and what you should get out of this is that we are roasting the coffee specifically to highlight a very high level of sweetness in the brew. The roasting process that I did, which was a 17% development time, specifically allows me to do this. So then, obviously, I need to choose the right grinds. I need to choose the right water that is free of any taints, odors, chlorine, which is always added here in the US. And then I need to think of if I don't use the Carlsbad coffee maker, but any of these other options, what kind of filter paper do I use? The type of filter also helps you to extract more or less oils into the cup. And the finer the filter, the slower the brew can be. Like this filter, which I'm using with my V60, is a little bit slower than the filter I'm using here for my Chemex. So some more tips for your filter brew roasting strategy. If you are a Giesen user, or if you are a user of any other model and you're contemplating to purchase a Giesen, then I would specifically advocate, you cup your coffees always before roasting. When you start roasting the coffee, it's very important to make a good plan, to understand your machine well enough so that you can set your parameters for the roasting profile, for the roasting process, and then that you allow at least 2 days of degassing time before you start using the coffee. The coffee I use today is a La Cabra produced at our farm in Panama, which is a coffee that gradually, post-roasting, over more than a week's time, starts to develop its unique profile. And I would specifically advise you, when you offer coffees for filter brew preparation, then put the coffee to the test in your shop or in your company, in your lab, and allow the coffee to mature post-roasting so that you can also define when is the best end point, so that you can advise your clients about the best strategy of storage and how long to wait until you brew the coffee. And then keep in mind that your clients, they can use all these different contraptions. There's many more coffee brewing devices nowadays in the market, and all of these devices hopefully can highlight the sweetness of your coffee. As a roaster, the first thing you have to do is really think about how you can obtain the maximum sweetness through your roasting profile, which you should try to do consistently. So those are the tips of today in today's session on coffee brewing and filter brew. There's a lot more to learn about this. There's some excellent literature in the market about this as well. But if you have any questions, specifically on how to roast specific coffees best for filter brew, don't hesitate. Send us a message, or you can email me, willem@bootcoffee.com. Also, here at Boot Coffee Campus in San Rafael, California, just north of San Francisco, we have frequently workshops on espresso barista techniques, on brewing techniques in general, and on how to select the right coffee for your business. Thank you, and I hope this is fun and that you learned a lot. Thank you very much. See you again.